Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Fan Art Friday. In this video I'm working on a drawing of Tracer from Overwatch. Overwatch is such an awesome game, and it has so many unique characters, which is awesome for working on fan art. So if you have any more suggestions for future drawing videos, maybe if you have any favourite Overwatch characters, then please let me know in the comments below, and hopefully I'll work on some more drawings like this in the future. For the first layer of outlining, I used a 0.05mm sepia coloured Copic multiliner pen, and I kept the lines nice and dynamic by having some thicker lines around some of the areas where I wanted to add some extra shading afterwards, and I added finer lines to some parts of the drawing that were lighter, so on the top edges of the hair and on the top edges of her collar and that kind of thing, just keeping the lines nice and dynamic to help with the shading later on. I wanted the shape of the drawing to be balanced across the page, so by having the hair reaching the top left corner of the page, I wanted Tracer's collar to be stretching out towards the bottom right, just to have a nice flow in the shape across the page and to take away some of the negative space. After that I wanted to work on the colouring, and for that I used Copic markers. I started off by working on the skin tones of her face, and for that I started off with the first layer of pinkish white. For the added shading over the top of that and around the outer edges of the face, I used a blush and a pale grape, and to add some extra colour and shading to her mouth and her nose I used a pure pink marker. I used this around the outer edges of the mouth and the nose and tried to blend them in by using the blush marker over the top of them. The pure pink works really well with the previously laid down skin tones. It seemed to show up the nose and the mouth very well and kind of highlighted them on the face. I went through the same process for adding the skin tones around her eyes, and then for the colour of her irises I used a maroon and a brick beige. For the colouring of her pupil I used a black Copic marker, and then for the eyebrows I used the maroon marker again. After those colours were laid down, I then used the honey and apricot markers to add the orange colouring to the goggles, and I used this to add a layer of colouring over the top of that area. And it really works well. Copic markers work in a way where you can just add layers over the top and it works without creating any smudging. So I was really pleased with this effect, and it was a nice way to keep the same tones of the skin tones but then blend new colours over the top of them. I also wanted to add some highlights to the face, and so I used a Uniball highlighter pen to add some highlights to the eyes and the nose and the mouth, just to make those areas stand out and seem like the prominent features of this drawing. For the outer edges of Tracer's goggles I used a mixture of Cool Grey 3, 5 and 7, adding the lighter areas around the centre of the drawing and adding some darker shading around the outside. For the colouring of Tracer's hair, I used a maroon marker for the first layer of colouring. I left some areas of highlights around the front parts of the hair, and I wanted to add some colouring with a lighter marker afterwards. So I filled in a base layer of colouring with the maroon, and then I added some layers over the top just to show the strands of hair and the different patterns and textures. After that I then used the champagne marker to add some colouring to those highlighted areas, and then I used the Uniball highlighter pen to add some highlighting around portions of the hair, adding some highlights along the top edges and around the highlighted areas of the champagne colouring. I used the same maroon and champagne markers for the colouring of her jacket, trying to blend between them and show different shades towards the centre of the drawing and kind of fading that outwards, and showing that kind of leather effect. For the inner edges that were a different colour I used the warm grey markers. I specifically used warm grey 1 and 3. I blended between them and added the darker shading towards the centre again. With the colouring of the drawing completed, I then wanted to add the second layer of outlining to help make Tracer stand out from the page, and for that I used a 0.3mm black Copic multiliner pen, and I used this to add some darkened outlines around some parts of the drawing, around parts of her hair and around the underside of her jaw and her chin, and around her neck. Just adding the black outlines around her face and not on her jacket, just to help make that part of the drawing stand out. After that was the drawing completed. Overall this drawing took about 3 hours to complete, and please let me know what you think of this drawing in the comments below. If you enjoy videos like this then make sure you're subscribed, and any likes or shares on this video are hugely appreciated and it really means a lot to me. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram and follow along with the progress photos throughout the week, then be sure to check out the links in the description box below. Once again, thank you so much for the support on this channel. It means so much to me and I can't wait to work on some more drawings. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you all soon.